Cypher is the dedicated loot trait in set 14, and it has a lot more going on than you think. In this video, I want to talk about a few different approaches to Cypher that go beyond getting as many stacks as possible. But before we get started, I had to sacrifice a lot of my games to make this video, and my viewers kept telling me it's not gonna be worth it because nobody will subscribe to my channel anyway. I say, let's prove them wrong. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up because we're about to go off-road with the Cypher trait. First, let's cover some of the basics. Within this trait, you can find a total of 5 units with Vi, LeBlanc, Draven, Galio and Zed. It is one of the few traits that doesn't have an emblem, so you're forced into finding all of the units early if you want to collect a lot of points. The point system itself is fairly simple. You get a small amount of points for killing units. Losing a fight grants you a large amount of points, which is increased further if you're on a lose streak. Thankfully, you don't need to build up your lose streak while having Cypher active. You can lose the first 3 fights in stage 2, take a Cypher unit in the first carousel, and then immediately profit from the ongoing lose streak. The main reason you want to play more Cypher units is because you get a higher multiplier for your points or a bigger stat boost after your cash out. What's different about Cypher compared to other loot traits is that the timing for when you cash out is set in stone beforehand. Also, you can only cash out once, but it's your choice if you want to take the loot in stage 3-3, 3-7, 4-3, 4-7, or 5-5. There is one exemption worth mentioning, which is the augment hostile takeover. This augment flips the trait on its head, granting you more points for killing units, but less points for losing a fight. Cypher is by no means a weak trait, and players have quickly figured out that the combo of Draven and Zed is a force to be reckoned with. Overall, this augment is a great choice and usually worth taking along the way. These are the basics for Cypher. Now let's talk about more advanced strategies. For example, did you know that you don't need to have Cypher active to receive your loot? Once you've collected Cypher points, the intel on the left side of your board will never disappear. You don't have to play a single Cypher unit. Once you reach a specific stage, the game still offers you the loot based on the amount of points you've gathered so far. At the moment, I don't know how intended this is. It's not impossible that this gets changed in the future, and you might need to have Cypher active to receive the cash out, but if that change ever happens, I will address it in the comments. Assuming this is working as intended, this has a lot of different implications. For starters, it means you can target any specific loot tables you want. Most players will tell you that the main point of running Cypher is to collect as many points as possible, but when you're trying to cook something specific, more points isn't always what you want. Here are some examples of what you can aim for. The first strategy involves spatulas and frying pans. Vertical traits like 10 Anima Squad, Street Demons or Exotech are all incredibly powerful and should guarantee you the win in most of your games. But they are not the only traits worth aiming for. Reaching 7 Syndicate with Misfortune Carry or finding a Divinicorp emblem for your Zed are both viable strategies to win out your lobby. Unfortunately, getting emblems has been rather difficult. Crest and Crown augments are limited to stage 2, and everything after is either random or the occasional prismatic circlet. There are some encounters like Loot Subscription that have a pretty good chance of granting you spatulas, but since every player receives the same outcome, those games tend to become a big mess. Outside of carousels, you can also encounter a hacked egg in stage 4. The 4-turn egg has a 10% chance for a spatula or frying pan, and the 9-turn egg has a 30% chance. Now, how do you get your hands on emblems when you're playing Cypher? At 250 points, you have a 25% chance to receive a frying pan with some upgraded bruisers. 250 points is quite low and easy to reach, but most of the time, you won't see the outcome you're aiming for. This is where freezing your points comes into play. You open with Cypher units and play them until you reach at least 250 points without crossing the next threshold at 290. Then you take out Cypher and swap your board into something different. At every cash out timing, you check for the outcome you're looking for, and if you didn't get it, you just save your intel and try again. Now you might wonder, won't you just get the same outcome over and over? The answer is no. I tested this and I can confirm that you can receive a different outcome within the same loot table. It is possible to receive the same outcome again because in the end, all the game does is to roll the dice again and give you 1 out of 4 possible cash outs. Since this cash out gives you a frying pan and the most valuable emblems require a spatula, you want to save up one Reforger or prioritize augments like Pandora's items so you can change the frying pan into a spatula and get the emblem you're looking for. The next best cash out you can aim for if you're interested in emblems is at 410. This can be tricky to get since the next threshold is already at 450, so you have to right click on your Cypher orb and do the math if it's better to remove some Cypher units and lower the multiplier. At 410 you have a 25% chance to receive a frying pan and a spatula together with 2 component anvils and a 2-star T4 unit. It's not impossible to reach 410 points by stage 3-7, meaning if you end up with something like a double fish bones or the Thieves Claws outcome, you can pivot out of Cypher to freeze your points and try again in stage 4-3 or something else. Although, if you already reached 410 points, then you might want to push a little bit further, because at 450 you can receive one of the most interesting cash outs in the lower half of the loot table. While all 3 cash outs are quite good, the most interesting one gives you a Garen, a Knight's Vow, a Banshee's Wail, a 2-star Z and a golden item remover. Chances are you're already playing a Draven Z combo, meaning you can use this to set yourself up with 1 or even 2 Zs, put the support items on Garen and find a powerful Garen mod for your Z duo. But this is a bit too intended for my taste, so let's deviate a bit and use this cash out in a way that Riot didn't expect. If you truly want to commit to the strategy, you can use the same freezing tech that I mentioned before. If you didn't get the Z cash out, you cut down to 2 Cypher units and simply try again in a few rounds. If you get the cash out, this is what you can do. You fill up your unit bench to block all available spaces. Then you run over the orbs to pick up the golden remover and the support items. Afterwards, there should only be 2 orbs left on your board. The golden orb that contains Garen and the blue orb that contains a Z 2-star. You free up your bench to collect the Garen, but keep the Z orb on the ground. The reason why we are doing this is because we have a guaranteed Z 2-star that is currently ignoring the champion pool. I have confirmed that this orb on the ground does not pull out any Zs out of the champion pool. So all you have to do is to find 6 Zs in total, and then you have a Z 3-star for free as your win condition. This works great in combination with augments like Reinforcement, as it upgrades the next tier 4 unit you buy to 2-star. Depending on your luck, it's quite possible to run around with a Z 3-star in early stage 4, and with the help of the support items and the Garen mod, he should be strong enough to carry you throughout the late game. As a bonus, if the mentioned strategies aren't crazy enough for you, there's always one more thing you can do. If you see Trade Tracker in stage 3-2, you have the option to make one of the most insane plays in TFT. Activating Trade Tracker in set 14 is quite simple. You need Alistair, Mundo, Poppy, Rast, Veigar, Shyvana and Jarvan. Next, you want to run some Cypher units on the side and passively collect points. You're not aiming for a big cash out, in fact, you want to gamble low. At 150 stacks, you have a 50% chance to receive a golden remover. The reason you're aiming for this is because once you pick up a golden remover, all of your removers will transform into a reforger. Since you get a free remover every stage, this quickly adds up to 4 or 5 reforgers, meaning you can reforge 3 bad emblems multiple times. Considering you have to juggle Trade Tracker and a Cypher cash out, this tech can easily make your head spin, but if you ever pull it off, it should totally be worth it. This is more or less everything I wanted to share about Cypher for now. What is your personal favorite Cypher tech that I haven't mentioned yet? Let me know in the comments. I hope you learned something, and see you next time.